Hello everybody. You are looking at my virtual machine and we are going to install WordPress following the Ubuntu tutorial because that's the one that actually has the best guide for configuring and setting up Apache and MySql and stuff. So I'll post a link along with this video, but let's take a look. And the first thing we're going to do is install the dependencies, right? So I'm going to open up a terminal window. And I'll try to make it so you can see both at the same time as much as possible. All right, so the first thing, we're going to run sudo apt update. I copy that. I come in here and I paste it. Hit enter. Now it's prompting me for my password. Remember that it doesn't show anything when I start typing. I just hit enter and I think I typed it wrong. And then it does it. Now, the next time we use sudo, it's not going to prompt us for the password, which is nice. But let's just take a look at what it's asking us to do here. So first we're going to install Apache, and that's a web server. So WordPress is a layer of software that sits on top of Apache. And then GoScript, that's for making PDFs. I'm not actually sure why they're asking us to install it, but maybe WordPress has a function that needs it to make PDFs or another image file. And then all of these libapache and PHP, these all install add-ons so that Apache can run the PHP programming language. So WordPress is written in the PHP programming language, and Apache is going to execute those programs when it needs to. The other thing that we're installing, other than GoScript, Apache, and PHP, is the MySQL server. And that's a database. It's a relational database management system. And that's where all the data is going to be stored. All the content for the WordPress site is going to be stored in there. All right. So I can just copy this whole thing. These backslashes just mean that there's a new line. And I can copy it all like this, and then just paste it and hit enter. All right, it's going to prompt me. It says, do you really want to install this stuff? And I'm just going to hit enter. You see how it's a capital Y? That means that's the default option. And when I hit enter, it just says yes, I accept all that. All right. So while that's going on, let's look ahead to our next step, which is going to be install WordPress. So if you remember, what we're doing is we're going to make a new directory where WordPress is going to live. And then we're going to change the owner of that directory to www-data. Now this is the user that Apache uses, right? So when we change the owner to this, it means that Apache is going to be the owner of this folder. And then curl lets us download a web page or a file from the web just from the terminal. So we're going to do a couple things here. I'm going to break this into two lines. The first thing we're going to do is download this file. The next thing we're going to do is extract it, right? And we're going to say that the user owner of this is going to be www-data. All right. So let's just take these one at a time. Copy, paste. All right. Copy, paste. Okay. And then we'll just do the curl first. This is called a pipe, and it just says take this and output it into that. But we'll do it in two steps. We'll actually use wget. We'll use curl. In fact, I'll do it all in one step just so you can follow along with the tutorial. Paste. Okay. Now curl's not installed. So I have to read this. It says curl not found, but I can install it. Sudo apt install curl. Okay. paste. All right. So now we're done with that. We've downloaded WordPress. We put it into the right folder. Let's move to the next step. All right. Now this is where Michael was getting hung up a little bit. And if we read the instructions, it says create Apache site for WordPress. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is create this file. So it's not clear in these instructions that it wants us to create a file, but we're going to create a new file. And it doesn't tell us how. It doesn't give us the command for that. So I'm going to copy that, and we can do sudo nano as our editor, and then I'll paste in the file name and path. All right. Okay. So you can see up here at the top of the nano editor that we are editing this file that we want. Now I'm going to take these commands, and I'm going to paste them into here. What this is saying is that we're creating a new website for Apache to host. The document root is where the files for that website are going to be found, and that's the WordPress folder. And then it just gives some special instructions for this, including that index.php is the entry site for this Apache website. All right, so now down here are kind of our menu options, and the first thing we're going to do is Control O, which is write output, and that saves it. So it says file name to write, and yeah, okay, enter. And then the next thing we just want to do is exit, so Control X. Okay, so that's done. Now we need to run these commands. This first one lets Apache know that we created WordPress. The second one is going to enable an Apache module called rewrite that makes us have nicer, prettier URLs. And then this one is going to disable the default website. But before I do that, and before I restart Apache, I'm just going to go up here. And if we go to the special URL 127.0.0.1, that's our computer. You can see that Apache is running on my virtual machine. And this is the default website. But we don't want the default website to be this Apache default page. We want it to be our WordPress site. So what we're going to do is disable the default site. All right. And we're going to reload Apache. So here it's telling us what to do, and I'm actually going to use this command that my system is telling me to use, not the one from the guide. So sudo reload Apache, and just for good measure, let's restart Apache. Copy sudo. Let me just show you a trick here while we're in this video. Let's say I do something and I forget to do sudo. It might prompt me for a password, or I can also do sudo and then bang bang, 2 exclamation points, and that'll just run the last command as sudo. All right, so we just restarted Apache. Cool. Now we're going to configure the database, and this is also a little bit tricky if you're not used to working with it. So this first thing, it's going to tell us to log in to the command line version of MySql, and we're just going to use our sudo password for that. Okay. Now, this text is not what we put in. What we put in are these commands that have the prompt here. So first we create a new database called WordPress. Then we create a new user, which is also going to be called WordPress. But the password isn't going to be your password. Let's make it Go Panthers. All right. So here we say the username is WordPress, and here we say the password is Go Panthers. All right. And then we're going to do these: grant, select, insert, update. These are giving permissions on the WordPress database to the WordPress user. And basically what we're saying is that WordPress user is going to be like an admin of this new database we created. In the last command, flush privileges, just probably could get away without running this, but flush privileges just tells WordPress, MySQL to update its permission system. Okay, and we're done. So I type quit, and we exit from the MySQL program back to our regular terminal shell. All right, now we need to configure WordPress. So this part, I don't really love what they did. So let's first just move into this folder, and we know how to do that. All right. So I can see what files are in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this file, the sample configuration, and call it wp-config. So let's do sudo -u www data. So let's say we're going to execute this as the Apache user, www data. And what we're going to do is copy the WordPress config sample, and we're going to copy it into a file called WordPress config. Right, so the sample is like, it's exactly what it is. It's an example of a configuration for WordPress, but wp-config is the actual file. All right. So next thing we're going to do is edit this. And this is like a really fancy way to edit it using a bunch of command line tricks. We're just going to use Nano to edit it, and we can set it up the way we want. So we will do the same thing, sudo -u www data nano wp config. All right. And the first thing we're going to do is change the database name to WordPress, the username to WordPress, and we're going to put our password into it. So here we go. In here, let's just give ourselves a little more room. And we can't use the mouse, but we can use the arrow keys to navigate. So DB name, WordPress. The DB username is WordPress. And the password is Go Panthers. All right. The rest of it we can leave. So let's save it. Control O, enter, Control X to quit. And we actually, if this were a live site and not running in our VM for practice purposes, we would change all this stuff to make it more secure, but we don't need to for right now. So let's move on to the next step, configure WordPress. And it's just telling us to open this up in a browser. So let's go over here, and we will go to 127. All right, and look, lo and behold, WordPress is now installed, and we're in the graphical setup for it. So I'll just go through this quickly, but this part I think you can do. It says I'm going to be using English. My site title would be my username is MXC. My password is Go Panthers. It's very weak. That's okay with me. And install WordPress. Sure, Firefox, save that for me. And now WordPress is installed. I'm going to log in with my new credentials. Go Panthers, log in, and here we go. Fresh WordPress install. Please take a look at this, and then I'm happy to answer any questions as you're trying to follow along with it, and we'll try to troubleshoot this together. Once you have this, you can start configuring WordPress and getting it set up using the WordPress documentation, and there shouldn't be too much more you need to do from the terminal command line and stuff. Last thing, if you've been trying a lot of things already and have failed, I recommend that you delete your virtual machine, you create a new one, make sure you give it at least 20 gigs of storage space when you create it, and then just do a fresh install from there so that you don't have anything that's maybe messed up or conflicting with the new WordPress install that you're going to do. All right, good luck, and we will talk soon.